Have you ever wondered why some people seem impossible to break? They stay calm while everyone else is panicking. They walk away from drama without explaining themselves. They don't chase approval. They don't react to insults. And somehow, life keeps rewarding them with peace that others spend years searching for. Most people think these individuals possess extraordinary discipline or natural confidence. But the truth is much simpler and much more uncomfortable. They quietly eliminated a handful of toxic habits that almost everyone else still protects. They didn't announce it. They didn't post about it. They simply removed them from their lives one by one until their minds became untouchable. What if I told you that one thing you're still holding on to today is silently stealing your confidence, your focus, and your future? And what if letting it go would make you stronger almost overnight? Stay until the end, because the final lesson is the one Marcus Aurelius himself would likely tell every person living in today's noisy world, and almost nobody is practicing it. Imagine a man standing at the edge of a crowded city street during rush hour. Horns are blaring. People are shouting into their phones. Digital billboards flash messages telling him to buy more, achieve more, become more. Everyone seems to be running towards something, yet almost nobody looks happy. He watches a businessman scream at a stranger over a parking space. A teenager refreshes social media every few seconds, hoping someone noticed her latest post. A couple argues because of something that happened 3 years ago. An elderly woman quietly feeds birds on a nearby bench, smiling as if none of the chaos exists. The man wonders why she seems richer than everyone around her despite wearing the simplest clothes. Then he realizes she possesses something the rest have traded away: inner peace. She owns herself, while everyone else has become owned by things they cannot control. This is exactly what the Stoics warned us about nearly 2,000 years ago. They believed suffering rarely comes from life itself. It comes from everything unnecessary we refuse to release. Every burden we carry by choice slowly becomes part of our identity, until we forget we ever had the option to put it down. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet reminded himself every morning that external events were never the real enemy. Seneca became wealthy but repeatedly practiced living with less so wealth could never control him. Epictetus began life as a slave, but taught that no one could imprison a free mind. Their message wasn't about escaping the world. It was about escaping the invisible chains people willingly wear every single day. The first chain is so common that most people mistake it for kindness. The first thing you must quietly eliminate from your life is the desperate need for everyone's approval. Think about how much energy disappears every day because of this single habit. Before speaking, you wonder if people will agree. Before posting online, you wonder how many likes it will receive. Before making a decision, you imagine someone criticizing you. Slowly, your life stops belonging to you. It becomes a performance for an invisible audience that is too busy worrying about themselves to notice you nearly as much as you think. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself that the opinion of others has no power unless you invite it into your mind. That idea sounds simple until you realize how much of modern life depends on approval. Entire industries profit from convincing you that your value depends on strangers validating your choices. Imagine a young professional named Daniel. Every promotion he accepted wasn't because he wanted it. It was because he wanted his family to admire him. Every expensive purchase wasn't something he truly needed. It was something he hoped would impress co-workers. Every relationship became exhausting because he feared disappointing everyone involved. From the outside, Daniel looked successful. Inside, he felt like a prisoner. One afternoon, he missed his daughter's school performance because he stayed late preparing a presentation that nobody remembered 2 weeks later. Driving home, he realized something painful. He had spent years earning applause from people who would replace him within days if he disappeared, while neglecting the people who would remember him forever. That night, he asked himself one question: what would I choose if nobody could judge me? The answer terrified him because it exposed how little of his life actually belonged to him. This is where Stoicism becomes practical rather than philosophical. Epictetus taught that if your happiness depends on another person's opinion, then you have handed them control over your emotional state. They don't even need to dislike you. The possibility that they might is enough to keep you anxious. Imagine waking up tomorrow completely free from that burden. You wear what feels authentic instead of fashionable. You speak honestly instead of strategically. You stop explaining every decision. You no longer chase invitations from people who barely think about you. You begin respecting yourself in a way no compliment could ever provide. Ironically, this is when genuine confidence appears. Not because everyone suddenly approves of you, but because their approval stops determining your direction. Here's the strange part. When people realize you no longer need their validation, many begin respecting you more. Confidence attracts admiration, while desperation often pushes it away. But eliminating the need for approval reveals another uncomfortable truth. Many of the people you worked so hard to impress were never truly on your side. And that's where the next lesson begins. The second thing you must quietly eliminate is the habit of explaining yourself to everyone. Most people believe explaining themselves creates understanding. Often it creates weakness. Picture a woman named Emily who finally decides to leave a job that drains her soul. Instead of simply resigning, she spends weeks defending her decision. She explains it to co-workers. She explains it to relatives. She explains it to neighbors who never asked. Every conversation becomes another trial where she feels responsible for convincing a jury that her life choices are reasonable. Eventually, she begins doubting herself. Nothing changed except one thing. She kept asking permission from people who weren't living her life. Seneca warned that those who waste time justifying every action eventually forget how to act from conviction. The more you defend your choices, the more power critics gain over your emotions. Have you noticed how truly confident people rarely over-explain? When they decline an invitation, they simply say they can't make it. When they change careers, they don't write essays defending themselves. When they set boundaries, they don't apologize for protecting their peace. Silence often communicates certainty more effectively than endless words. Of course, this doesn't mean becoming cold or arrogant. It means recognizing that not every opinion deserves access to your mental energy. Think about how many arguments begin because someone demanded an explanation that was never actually owed. Someone asks why you're still single, why you don't drink, why you changed churches, why you moved away, why you aren't chasing the same goals anymore. Sometimes the healthiest answer is no answer at all, because every unnecessary explanation quietly tells your mind that your own judgment isn't enough. Marcus Aurelius wrote countless reminders to himself, not because he lacked wisdom, but because he understood the greatest battle always happens within. If he had spent his life arguing with every critic of Rome, he would never have had time to govern an empire. The same principle applies today. Every minute spent convincing the wrong people steals time from becoming the right person. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with rocks. Every explanation is another stone. Every attempt to make everyone understand is another stone. Eventually you're exhausted, not because life is too difficult, but because you're carrying weight that never belonged to you. The strongest people often surprise others by how little they say, not because they have nothing to prove, because they no longer believe everything requires proof. And once you stop explaining yourself, another hidden enemy becomes impossible to ignore. It's an enemy millions willingly carry every single day without realizing it slowly poisons every future opportunity. The third thing you must quietly eliminate is resentment. If there is one emotion capable of stealing decades from a person's life while convincing them they are completely justified, it is resentment. Imagine holding a burning piece of coal in your hand, waiting for someone else to feel the pain. That is resentment. The person who betrayed you may already be sleeping peacefully, while your mind replays the same conversation for the 1,000th time. Someone lied to you years ago. Someone cheated you. Someone abandoned you. Someone embarrassed you. The event ended long ago, But inside your mind, it keeps happening every day because resentment refuses to let time perform its healing work. A man named Robert spent 15 years blaming his former business partner for his financial collapse. Every conversation somehow returned to the betrayal. Every new opportunity was compared to what he had lost. Friends grew tired of hearing the same story. Employers sensed bitterness before they noticed talent. Then something unexpected happened. He met an elderly veteran at a community event. The old man listened patiently before asking one quiet question. How much rent has that man been paying to live inside your mind all these years? Robert laughed at first. Then he stopped laughing because he realized the answer was nothing. The betrayer had moved on. He had built another business, started another family, continued living. Only Robert remained trapped in a prison whose door had been unlocked for years. This is exactly why the Stoics insisted forgiveness is often an act of self-preservation rather than generosity. Forgiveness does not erase justice. It does not pretend evil never happened. It simply refuses to let another person's actions dictate the rest of your story. Epictetus taught that events themselves cannot wound the soul nearly as deeply as our judgments about them. That doesn't mean betrayal isn't painful. It means choosing to relive betrayal every day creates a second wound far deeper than the first. Modern psychology echoes this ancient wisdom. People who remain trapped in cycles of resentment often experience greater stress, anxiety, disrupted sleep, and difficulty trusting healthy relationships. The original pain eventually spreads into every corner of life. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine waking up and realizing your future no longer needs permission from your past. The betrayal still happened. The lesson remains. The wisdom stays. But the emotional chains are gone. That is not weakness. That is one of the highest forms of strength. And here's the twist almost nobody expects. When resentment disappears, something extraordinary rushes in to fill the empty space. Clarity. You begin seeing opportunities that bitterness had hidden. You make decisions based on purpose instead of revenge. You stop trying to prove people wrong and start proving yourself right. Most people never reach this point because they believe holding on to pain protects them from future disappointment. In reality, it usually guarantees more suffering. But the next habit is even more dangerous because, unlike resentment, it disguises itself as productivity and ambition. It quietly steals your attention every hour of every day while convincing you that you're making progress. And once you recognize it, you will never look at your daily routine the same way again. Most people never notice when their life begins slipping away because it doesn't happen all at once. It happens one distracted moment at a time. 5 minutes become an hour becomes a habit becomes a lifestyle. Before long, they wonder where the years went. The Stoics believed that nothing is more valuable than time because every other possession can be recovered. Money can be earned again. Reputation can be rebuilt. Even health can sometimes be restored. But one wasted day is gone forever. That is why the fourth thing you must quietly eliminate from your life is unnecessary distraction. Imagine a man named Michael who starts every morning with the intention of becoming a better version of himself. He promises he'll read more, exercise more, and spend meaningful time with his family. But before he even gets out of bed, he checks his phone. One notification leads to another. A news headline becomes a 30-minute rabbit hole. Social media convinces him to compare his ordinary morning with someone else's carefully edited highlight reel. By the time he finally begins his day, his mind already feels exhausted. Nothing dramatic happened. No disaster occurred. He simply surrendered the most valuable part of his day before he even realized it. Marcus Aurelius warned himself not to act as though he would live forever. Every morning, he reminded himself that death stands beside every human being, not to create fear, but to create urgency. If today truly mattered, Would you spend it feeding distractions that leave you emptier than before? Distraction is dangerous because it feels harmless. It whispers that one more video won't matter, one more argument online won't matter, one more hour scrolling won't matter. Yet these tiny decisions quietly shape the person you become. Think about the people who accomplish extraordinary things. They are rarely gifted with more time than anyone else. They simply guard their attention with relentless discipline. They understand that where attention goes, life follows. Imagine placing your focus inside a bucket with tiny holes. Every meaningless notification, every unnecessary debate, every piece of gossip punches another hole into that bucket. Eventually you wonder why you have no energy left for your dreams. The solution isn't escaping technology or hiding from the modern world. It's becoming its master instead of its servant. What deserves your attention today? What deserves your life? Those two questions have the same answer. Because your life is nothing more than your attention stretched across time. And once you begin protecting your attention, another uncomfortable truth appears. Many of the people around you don't deserve unlimited access to it. That leads to the fifth thing you must quietly eliminate. People who constantly drain your peace. This doesn't mean abandoning everyone who disagrees with you. Stoicism never taught isolation. It taught discernment. There is a profound difference. Some people challenge you because they want you to grow. Others criticize you because they cannot stand watching you grow beyond them. Knowing the difference changes everything. Picture a woman named Sarah who notices something strange after every lunch with a certain friend. She always leaves feeling smaller than when she arrived. Every achievement is dismissed. Every dream becomes unrealistic. Every success is met with subtle jealousy disguised as concern. At first, she tells herself she's imagining it. Months become years. Her confidence slowly fades without her realizing why. Then she spends one weekend away from everyone completely alone. She hikes through a quiet forest without notifications, without criticism, without comparison. For the first time in years, she hears her own thoughts, and they sound nothing like the voices she had been carrying inside her head. Seneca wrote that we become like the people we spend the most time with. Their habits become our habits. Their fears become our fears. Their standards quietly become our own. This is why protecting your circle isn't selfish. It's responsible. Imagine planting a healthy tree in poisoned soil. No matter how strong the seed, the environment eventually wins. The same happens to human beings. You cannot constantly surround yourself with negativity while expecting peace to flourish. Some relationships survive only because you keep sacrificing your own well-being. Some friendships exist only because you remain the weaker version of yourself. The moment you become disciplined, ambitious, and emotionally stable, those relationships begin falling apart. Do not always assume something went wrong. Sometimes growth naturally creates distance. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. As emperor, he couldn't choose every person around him, but he could choose which voices entered his mind. You have the same power. Not everyone deserves unlimited emotional access to you. Not every phone call requires an answer. Not every invitation deserves acceptance. Not every opinion deserves consideration. Your peace is expensive. Stop giving it away for free. But even after removing toxic people, another invisible enemy often remains. In fact, this enemy usually lives inside your own mind. And unlike difficult people, it follows you everywhere. The sixth thing you must quietly eliminate is the habit of comparing your life to everyone else's. Comparison is one of the fastest ways to destroy gratitude. You can have a loving family, good health, meaningful work, and genuine friends. Yet one glance at someone else's success convinces you that your own life isn't enough. Suddenly, your blessings become invisible. Your mind becomes obsessed with what is missing instead of what is present. A young entrepreneur named Jason built a successful small business that comfortably supported his family. 5 years earlier, he would have considered it a dream come true. Then social media entered his daily routine. Every day he watched millionaires buying private jets, influencers showing luxury vacations, entrepreneurs claiming they made more money before breakfast than most people earn in a year. Without realizing it, Jason stopped celebrating his own progress. His children noticed, his wife noticed, his employees noticed. Nothing in his actual life became worse. Only his perspective changed. Epictetus taught that wealth is not measured by possessions, but by wanting less. That idea feels almost rebellious today because modern culture survives by convincing people they are never enough, never attractive enough, never rich enough, never successful enough, never young enough, never accomplished enough. There will always be someone stronger, someone wealthier, someone smarter, someone more famous. If your happiness depends on becoming number one, you have chosen a race with no finish line. The Stoics offered another path. Compete with the person you were yesterday. Compare your present discipline with your former excuses. Measure your growth against your own potential, because the only comparison that creates peace is the comparison that inspires improvement rather than envy. Imagine climbing a mountain. If you spend the entire climb staring at hikers ahead of you, you'll miss every beautiful view around you. You'll reach the top exhausted and still dissatisfied because someone else climbed a higher mountain. Comparison steals the present. Gratitude restores it. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that another person's excellence does not diminish his own. The sun loses nothing by allowing another candle to burn. Neither do you. Celebrate others, learn from them, but never surrender your self-worth to their achievements. Because the moment your value depends on someone else's life, you stop living your own. Now imagine eliminating the need for approval. Imagine no longer explaining yourself. Imagine releasing resentment, protecting your attention, walking away from people who poison your peace. Ending destructive comparison. You would already feel like a different person. Yet there is one more silent habit that keeps millions trapped in lives they secretly dislike. It feels responsible. It sounds practical. Society even praises it. But left unchecked, it quietly becomes one of the greatest obstacles to courage and freedom. And once you recognize it, you will understand why so many people reach old age filled not with failure, but with regret. The seventh thing you must quietly eliminate from your life is the habit of living according to other people's expectations. This is one of the most dangerous prisons because the bars are invisible. Nobody forces you inside. You walk in willingly. From childhood, you're told who to become, what success should look like, what career deserves respect, what kind of house you should own, and what timeline your life should follow. Slowly, your dreams become crowded with voices that were never yours. Imagine a man named Andrew who spent 20 years climbing the corporate ladder. Every promotion made his parents proud. Every raise impressed his friends. Every achievement looked perfect from the outside. Yet every Sunday evening he felt the same knot in his stomach because Monday meant returning to a life he never actually chose. One afternoon, his young son asked him a simple question. "Dad, what do you love doing the most?" Andrew opened his mouth, but no answer came out. He realized he had become an expert at meeting expectations, but a stranger to himself. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that no one else's opinion could define a meaningful life. Only virtue could do that. Success without inner peace is still failure. Recognition without purpose is still emptiness. How many people spend decades building lives they secretly hope to escape from? Not because they lack courage, because they confuse approval with fulfillment. The Stoics believed your responsibility is not to satisfy every expectation placed upon you. Your responsibility is to live honorably according to reason and character. That may require disappointing people. It may require changing direction. It may require leaving behind an identity you've carried for years. But the alternative is even more painful. Imagine reaching the final chapter of your life only to realize you faithfully lived someone else's story. No amount of money can repay that loss. No amount of applause can erase that regret. Your life is your responsibility, not your audience's, not your neighbors, not society's. And once you begin living for your own principles, another silent enemy immediately reveals itself. The eighth thing you must quietly eliminate is the fear of being alone. Modern culture teaches people that being alone means something is wrong. We rush to fill every empty moment with noise, conversations, entertainment, and endless connection. Yet the Stoics understood something most people never discover. Loneliness and solitude are not the same thing. Loneliness is feeling empty in a crowded room. Solitude is feeling complete in your own company. Epictetus believed that a person who cannot enjoy their own company will eventually become dependent on everyone else's. Imagine a woman named Grace who dreaded silence. Every free moment was filled with podcasts, television messages, or scrolling through her phone. She believed she was avoiding boredom. In reality, she was avoiding herself. Then one weekend, the power went out after a storm. No internet, no television, no distractions. At first, she felt restless, then uncomfortable, then surprisingly peaceful. She walked outside and listened to the wind moving through the trees. She noticed birds she had never paid attention to before. She began writing thoughts she didn't know existed. For the first time in years, she wasn't consuming someone else's life. She was finally living her own. Marcus Aurelius filled entire journals while ruling an empire because he understood the value of quiet reflection. Your greatest answers rarely arrive while the world is shouting. They appear when the noise disappears. If you fear being alone, you will tolerate unhealthy relationships simply to avoid silence. You'll stay where you aren't respected. You'll accept conversations that drain your spirit. You'll mistake company for connection. But when solitude becomes your friend, something extraordinary happens. You stop begging people to stay. You stop chasing those who walk away. You stop settling for less than you deserve, because your peace no longer depends on another person's presence. And that peace becomes impossible to manipulate. But even after embracing solitude, there remains another invisible burden that silently steals joy from millions. It hides behind one simple word: someday. The ninth thing you must quietly eliminate is the habit of postponing your life. How often have you told yourself you'll be happy when something finally happens, when you earn more money, when you lose weight, when you retire, when your children grow older, when life becomes easier? The problem is that tomorrow keeps moving. Imagine an elderly man sitting on his porch watching the sunset. He spent 40 years promising himself he would travel someday. He would write a book someday. He would repair broken friendships someday. He would spend more time with family someday. Now someday has become yesterday. Seneca warned that while we postpone living, life rushes past us. Nothing is guaranteed except this moment. That truth isn't depressing, it's liberating, because it reminds you that the perfect time never arrives. Courage creates the perfect time. Imagine waking up tomorrow believing it might genuinely be your last ordinary day. Who would you forgive? Who would you call? What dream would you finally begin? What unnecessary argument would instantly become meaningless? Death was never a dark obsession for the Stoics. It was a compass. Remembering that life ends makes every ordinary day infinitely valuable. Stop waiting for certainty. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for ideal conditions. Your future is being created by what you do today, not by what you promise yourself you'll do someday. And finally, we arrive at the lesson that quietly ties everything together. The 10th thing you must quietly eliminate from your life is the illusion that you can control everything. This is perhaps the hardest lesson of all. Most suffering begins when reality refuses to obey our expectations. We want people to understand us. Sometimes they won't. We want relationships to last forever. Sometimes they end. We want hard work to guarantee success. Sometimes life delays the reward. We want fairness. Sometimes injustice wins for a season. The Stoics never claimed life would always be fair. They simply refused to let unfairness destroy their character. Imagine standing in the middle of the ocean, trying to command the waves to stop. You would exhaust yourself. Now imagine raising your sail instead. The wind hasn't changed. The ocean hasn't changed. Only your response has changed. That is Stoicism. Epictetus divided life into two simple categories: what you can control and what you cannot. Your thoughts, your actions, your discipline, your honesty, your courage. These belong to you, other people's opinions. The economy, the weather, the past, the future, these never belonged to you, yet most people sacrifice their peace-fighting battles they were never meant to win. Marcus Aurelius ruled one of history's greatest empires during war-plagued betrayal and political chaos. He couldn't control any of those events, but he could control whether they made him bitter. That was his true victory. The same choice exists for you every single day. You may not control what happens next, but you always control who you become because of it. Think back to everything we've explored. Eliminate the need for approval. Stop explaining yourself. Release resentment. Protect your attention. Walk away from people who drain your peace. End destructive comparison. Live according to your own principles. Embrace meaningful solitude. Stop postponing your life. Accept what you cannot control. Notice something remarkable. None of these require money. None require extraordinary intelligence. None depend on luck. They require only one decision: the decision to stop carrying what was never yours. That is where freedom begins, not when the world changes, when you change. One quiet decision at a time. Years from now, people may look at your calmness and call you lucky. They'll wonder how you stay peaceful while everything around you seems uncertain. They won't see the invisible work. They won't know how many unnecessary burdens you quietly removed. They'll only notice the strength that remains. And perhaps that's exactly how it should be. Real transformation is usually silent. The strongest trees make no sound while they grow. The deepest rivers flow without announcing themselves. The wisest people rarely need to convince anyone they are wise. So beginning today, ask yourself one question every morning. What can I quietly eliminate today that no longer serves my character? Ask it every day. Because the quality of your life is not determined by how much you gain. It is determined by how much unnecessary weight you finally have the courage to release. If this message challenged the way you think, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment telling us which of these 10 lessons you're eliminating first and why. Your answer may become the encouragement someone else has been searching for. And if you're ready to build unshakable discipline, emotional control, and the quiet confidence of the Stoics, subscribe and join this journey. Remember this: the loudest people often seek attention. The strongest people quietly master themselves. Choose mastery, because the life you've been searching for doesn't begin when the world finally changes. It begins the moment you do.